The cries came at dusk, soft, broken, and nearly lost beneath the whispering wind that crawled over the fields. Officer Daniel Harker stopped mid-step, one hand tightening on his K9's leash. Rex, the German Shepherd trained to detect death and danger, stiffened, ears pinned forward toward the old stone well that stood half swallowed by weeds. For a moment, Daniel thought he imagined it a trick of the wind, maybe a bird, but then the sound came again. A human cry, faint, desperate, and somehow too small. The sun dipped lower, and everything in Willow Creek changed. The evening shift was almost over when the call came through. Static hissed through Daniel's radio, followed by the dispatcher's voice, strained and uncertain. Unit 23, we got a report of a child's voice heard near the abandoned Greenridge farm. Caller didn't give a name. Says the voice has been echoing for hours. You're the closest. Check it out. Daniel exhaled, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Copy that, he said, glancing at Rex, who sat in the passenger seat like a soldier waiting for orders. Guess we're not done yet, partner. Rex gave a low whine, tail brushing against the seat. The dog knew that tone, something uneasy. The road to Greenridge twisted to the edge of town, where houses faded into shadow and the woods thickened. Daniel's headlights sliced through mist that hung low over the grass like a living thing. The air smelled of rain and rust. The Greenridge property had been abandoned for almost 15 years, ever since the fire. Nobody came here anymore, not since old Mr. Greenridge vanished without a trace. The land was sold, then left to rot. But Daniel had heard stories, voices near the well, lights in the barn, crying that didn't belong to anything living. He didn't believe them. Not really. But belief didn't stop his pulse from tightening as the car rolled to a stop beside the field. Rex jumped down first, landing softly, nose to the ground. The grass was slick, cold against Daniel's boots as he walked toward the silhouette of the well at the far end of the field. The air felt heavy, almost electric. Then he heard it, faint but unmistakable. A cry, childlike, weak, rising up from the dark throat of the well. Daniel froze. His flashlight beam trembled across the moss-covered stones. The sound came again, ragged, pleading. Help, please. Jesus Christ, he whispered. There's someone down there. He ran to the well's edge, gripping the stones and leaning over. The air that rose from below was damp, cold, and smelled of earth and rot. He aimed his light down. It cut through a narrow shaft of darkness, then landed on something pale moving far below. A hand. Small, trembling. He staggered back a step, grabbing his radio. Dispatch! I've got a possible child trapped in the Greenridge well. Requesting backup and rescue support now. The radio crackled, then fell silent. No answer. Static hissed in his ear, sharp and constant. Daniel swore under his breath. Of course. The valley always killed the signal. He looked at Rex. We're on our own, buddy. The dog barked once, low and urgent. Daniel uncoiled the rope from the back of his patrol SUV. He always kept one for emergencies, and tied it to the rusted handle of the old well pump. The metal groaned, protesting under tension. He tested it twice. Not great, but it would have to do. Stay, he ordered Rex, though he knew the dog would ignore him if things went wrong. He lowered himself over the edge, boots scraping against slick stones. The air grew colder the deeper he went. His flashlight swayed, catching glimpses of carved initials in the rock, marks made by hands, long ago. Then a whisper, not from below, from above. He froze, heartbeat stuttering. Officer! He looked up. Nothing. Just Rex, ears pricked, eyes reflecting the light. The voice had been soft, female, familiar in a way that made his stomach twist. He shook it off. Get a grip, Harker. At the bottom, the earth was wet and uneven. The beam of light caught the figure crouched against the wall. A little girl, maybe 8 or 9, barefoot and shivering. Her face was streaked with dirt, eyes too wide. It's okay, Daniel said softly, kneeling. You're safe now. I'm Officer Harker. I'm going to get you out. She flinched at his voice, shaking her head. No, he'll hear you. Daniel's skin prickled. Who? She stared past him into the darkness. The man with the hat. Before he could ask, Rex's bark thundered from above. Furious. Warning. Daniel looked up just as something heavy scraped against the stones at the mouth of the well. A shadow moved across the circle of light. Then silence. "Hey!" Daniel shouted. His voice echoed, swallowed by the dark. The girl whimpered. "He's back." Daniel's instincts flared. Whoever was up there had seen his car, his dog, his light. If someone wanted to keep this girl hidden, they wouldn't let him climb out alive. He grabbed his radio again, dead. "All right," he whispered. "We do this the hard way." He tied the rope around the girl's waist. "When I say go, you climb, okay? Rex will help." Her eyes filled with tears. "He'll be mad." "Then we'll make him angrier," Daniel said. He tugged the rope twice, Rex's signal. The dog barked, claws scraping, and began pulling the rope with strength that always surprised Daniel. The girl rose slowly, spinning as the rope creaked. Daniel kept the flashlight steady, whispering encouragement until she vanished into the beam above. Then footsteps. 2 sets. He heard Rex snarl, then a grunt, a thud. The rope went slack. "Rex!" Daniel shouted. No response. He started climbing, hands slick with mud. The stones cut his palms. His flashlight slipped and shattered below. When he reached the top, he found the field empty, just swaying grass and a broken rope dangling loose. "Rex!" His voice cracked. "Rex!" A rustle behind him. He turned, too late. Something hard slammed into the back of his skull. Darkness swallowed everything. He woke to the sound of rain. His head throbbed, vision hazy. He was lying near the well, wrists tied. The girl was gone, and so was Rex. The field looked different now. Emptier, as if the night itself had thickened. His patrol car's headlights were still on, slicing through the mist. Then a voice. "Didn't think you'd come out here alone." Daniel froze. He knew that voice. From the shadows emerged Sheriff Tom Avery. His superior, rain dripping from the brim of his hat. The same hat the girl had described. Daniel's chest went cold. "Tom, what the hell is this?" Avery crouched beside him, cigarette glowing in the dark. "You shouldn't have come poking around the Greenridge property. Some ghosts are better left buried." Daniel's voice was hoarse. "There's a girl. She's alive. She needs—" "She's not alive," Avery interrupted. His tone was calm, almost kind. "Hasn't been for years." Daniel stared, heart-hammering. "I saw her. I talked to her." Avery exhaled smoke, looking almost sorry. "You saw what the place wanted you to see." He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded photograph. Rain smeared the edges. Daniel's eyes widened. It was the same girl, the same face. Missing poster dated October 1998. The girl from the well. Avery stood. "We buried her out here after the fire. Your father helped me. You were too young to remember." Daniel's stomach turned. "You're lying." "Am I?" Avery's boot pressed against Daniel's shoulder. "You and that dog of yours should have stayed out of this. Now I've got 2 problems to fix." But before Avery could move, a snarl ripped through the dark. "Rex!" The dog lunged from the mist, teeth sinking into Avery's arm. The sheriff roared, stumbling back as Daniel twisted free of the rope. Pain shot through his hands as he crawled toward the car, fumbling for his sidearm. Gunshots split the night. 1, 2, then silence. When Daniel looked up, Avery was on the ground, motionless. Rex stood beside him, chest heaving, blood on his muzzle, not his own. Daniel staggered to his feet, rain washing over them both. He looked toward the well. The rope hung still, swaying gently, and from below came one last sound, soft, almost tender, a whisper. "Thank you." The mist swallowed it, and the night went quiet again. Daniel dropped to his knees, pulling Rex close. The dog trembled, pressing his head into Daniel's chest. He didn't know what to tell the others. The report would say disturbance handled. No one would believe the rest. As the rain began to fade, he looked toward the horizon where the town lights flickered faintly. Willow Creek would sleep soundly tonight, never knowing what lay beneath its soil. Daniel whispered into Rex's ear, "Let's go home, partner." The rain had stopped by the time Officer Daniel Harker and his K9 Rex reached the edge of Willow Creek's main road. Dawn was crawling in slow, uncertain streaks of gray, spreading over the soaked fields and broken fences. Daniel's hand still trembled on the steering wheel. His uniform was streaked with dirt and blood, not all of it his. Avery's blood. The body still lay by the well, though Daniel hadn't dared call in yet. He dragged it out of sight, hidden beneath the tall weeds, just until he could think. Every instinct as an officer screamed at him to report it immediately, but the voice inside him, the one that remembered Avery's words, whispered, "Wait." He'd said, "Your father helped me." That sentence wouldn't leave him alone. Rex lay quietly in the back seat, eyes following Daniel through the rear-view mirror. The dog's chest rose and fell in slow, heavy breaths. He'd taken a bullet graze along his shoulder. Nothing deep, but enough to slow him. Daniel had cleaned it with the first aid kit from the trunk, though the trembling in his hands hadn't stopped since. He pulled a patrol car to a stop outside his house, a small, two-bedroom place on the edge of town. The house looked the same as always, peeling white paint, porch light flickering from a bad bulb, but this morning, everything about it felt wrong. He carried Rex inside, settling him on an old blanket near the heater. The dog whined softly as Daniel checked the wound again. "You did good, partner," he whispered, brushing his fur. "You saved my life again." Rex's eyes blinked, heavy with exhaustion. He rested his head on Daniel's hand and exhaled, a deep, trustful sigh that hit Daniel like a punch. He stood, blood drying stiff on his sleeve, and poured himself a glass of whiskey. It burned on the way down, sharp and bitter. His reflection in the kitchen window looked older than he remembered. He needed answers. He walked to the living room, toward the old oak cabinet where his father's belongings had been stored after his death 3 years ago. His father, Henry Harker, once the town's deputy, later the drunk everyone pitied. Daniel had spent years trying to forget him. He opened the bottom drawer. Dust billowed into the air. Inside were scattered mementos, a badge, a leather notebook, a stack of yellow photographs. One photo caught his eye. Henry standing beside Sheriff Tom Avery, both younger, both smiling, in front of the same well at Greenridge Farm. His breath caught. In the background of the photo was a small figure, a girl, barefoot, holding a red ribbon in her hair. The girl from the well. He turned the photo over. A date written in faded ink, October 12, 1998. Below it, for words that made his blood run cold. For keeping her quiet. The next few hours blurred together. Daniel pacing the room, the same sentence looping through his mind. "Your father helped me." For keeping her quiet. He wanted to believe it meant nothing. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe Avery had written it after case. But the deeper he looked through the box, the less room there was for denial. He found newspaper clippings, small town headlines yellow with age. Greenridge Farm fire claims 1 life. Local man, Thomas Greenridge, presumed dead after barn explosion. Authorities investigate possible foul play. Another article, a week later. Local girl still missing. Authorities end search. And below, in smaller print, Sheriff Tom Avery assures townsfolk there's no danger to the community. Daniel sank into his chair. The edges of the paper cut into his fingers. His father had been deputy at the time. His father, who used to disappear for nights, coming home smelling of smoke and whiskey, muttering things Daniel couldn't understand. He poured another drink, staring at the photo until the faces blurred. Rex stirred, lifting his head. A low growl rumbled from his throat. Not at Daniel, but at the window. Daniel turned. A car sat across the street. A dark SUV. Engine running. Headlights off. Someone was watching. He set the glass down slowly, grabbed his gun, and stepped outside. The morning mist had thickened again, clinging to the road like smoke. "Can I help you?" he called out, voice firm. The SUV door opened. Out stepped Deputy Marla Keene. She was mid-30s, sharp eyes, a woman who carried herself like she trusted no one, which was why Daniel had trusted her more than most. "Jesus, Marla," he said, lowering his weapon. "You scared the hell out of me." She didn't smile. "You didn't check in last night." "I lost radio contact." "I checked the tracker. Your unit was at Greenridge Farm until dawn. Avery's truck was there too." Her gaze was steady. Now neither of you are answering dispatch. Daniel's jaw tightened. Where's Avery? That's what I was hoping you'd tell me. The silence between them grew heavy. Finally, Daniel said quietly, "He's dead." Marla didn't flinch. "You kill him?" He hesitated. "He attacked me. I didn't have a choice." Her eyes narrowed, studying his face. "You look like hell, Harker." "You should see the well," he muttered. Something flickered in her expression. "The well?" Daniel nodded. "There was a girl down there. At least, I thought there was. But she's gone now." Marla looked away. Her jaw clenched. "You shouldn't have gone there," she said finally. "Why?" "Because of your boss." Her eyes snapped back to him, sharp as glass. Don't what?" "Pretend you didn't know he was dirty." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You don't understand what you stepped into, Danny. The Green Ridge fire was an accident. The sheriff, he covered things up for people you don't want to meet." Daniel felt his pulse hammer. "What people?" Marla hesitated, then looked toward the woods beyond his house. "The kind that built this town. The kind that made sure men like Avery stayed sheriff for 30 years. Are you telling me the sheriff was protecting them?" "I'm telling you he was owned by them." Rex barked, loud and sharp, making both of them jump. From somewhere in the woods came an answering echo, a whistle. Short, distinct. Someone else was out there. Marla's hand went to her gun. "They found you." "Who?" A gunshot cut him off. The back window of Daniel's car shattered. Rex lunged forward, barking furiously. Daniel grabbed Marla's arm, dragging her behind a patrol car. "How many?" "2, maybe 3, she hissed. "They won't stop until the loose ends are gone." "Loose ends?" She met his eyes. "You, me, and whatever the hell's in that well." They exchanged a look, fear, confusion, unspoken understanding. "Cover me," Daniel said. He sprinted toward the tree-line, Rex at his side, weaving between shadows. Bullets tore through the branches. One whizzed past his ear. He ducked, rolled behind a fallen log, and fired back. 2 clean shots. One figure dropped. The other vanished deeper into the mist. Then silence. Rex growled low, muscles coiled. Daniel's radio crackled suddenly. Marla's voice panicked. "Danny, behind you." He turned just as a shape lunged from the fog. The man's face was hidden beneath a hood, his movements fast and deliberate. Daniel caught the flash of a knife before Rex launched forward, teeth snapping. The attacker fell, screaming as Rex tore into his arm. Daniel pinned him down, gun pressed his temple. "Who sent you?" The man spat blood, eyes wild. "You think you can bury it again? You're just like your old man." "What did my father do?" Daniel demanded. But the man only laughed, a sound twisted with something close to madness. "Ask the girl." Daniel's finger tightened on the trigger, then froze, because from the woods behind them came a sound that didn't belong there, a child's laugh, light, echoing, carried by the mist. He turned. Nothing, just trees and fog. But then he saw it, a flash of red, a ribbon, hanging from a low branch. The same ribbon the girl had worn in the photograph. And below it, carved deep into the bark, were words that chilled him to the bone. "You promised to keep me safe." They buried the attacker's body in the woods. Neither of them said the word murder, but both knew what it was. By the time they returned to town, the sun was low again, bruising the sky with purple light. Marla patted her arm in silence, while Daniel sat on the porch, Rex lying at his feet. "You think she's real?" Marla asked finally. Daniel stared at the horizon. "I don't know anymore." Marla's voice softened. "If Avery was working for someone, we need to find out who. But if that girl..." "She's not a ghost," Daniel said. "I saw her. I touched her hand." Marla looked away. "Then where is she now?" Daniel didn't answer. He just kept staring into the dusk, toward the distant outline of Greenridge Farm. The wind shifted, carrying the faintest sound, a child's voice calling from far away. And though he didn't want to admit it, a part of him recognized that voice. Because once, long ago, he'd heard it before. A quiet pause settled over the narration, steady, somber. If you've stayed with Daniel this far, you already know there's more buried under Willow Creek than bones. And if you're still listening, don't look away now. Night fell heavy over Willow Creek again, the kind of darkness that didn't just hide things, it kept them. The air carried the smell of wet soil and ash. Somewhere far off, thunder muttered like a warning that came too late. Officer Daniel Harker stood at the edge of Green Ridge Farm once more. His flashlight beam cut through the fog, glinting off the rusted wellhead where everything had started. Rex patted at his side, quiet but alert, his ears twitching at every sound. Behind them, Marla Keene's truck idled, headlights low. She leaned against the hood, arms folded, her face pale and unreadable. "You sure about this?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "If Avery and my father buried something here, we're going to find it." Marla sighed. "You ever think about what happens if we do?" "Every minute." She studied him for a long moment. "Then you already know you won't like the answer." He didn't respond. The truth was, he hadn't slept since that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the girl's face staring up from the well. Wet hair, pale skin, lips trembling as she whispered, "He'll hear you." Now, even in silence, her voice followed him. "He's back. He's back." Daniel knelt beside the well, brushing away the damp weeds. The rope was still there, frayed from the night Avery died. The stone felt colder than it should have. He set down a floodlight, then a shovel. "Let's dig around the base first," he said. "See if there's anything buried nearby." Marla grabbed another shovel and joined him. The two worked in silence, the only sound to scrape a metal on earth and a low rumble of distant thunder. Rex paced in slow circles, whining softly. After half an hour, Marla's shovel hit something solid. She froze. "Wait! You hear that?" Daniel crouched, brushing soil aside with his gloved hands. Wood. Old, half-rotted planks. He grabbed the edge and pulled. The boards gave way with a wet snap, revealing a hollow beneath. A smell rushed out, sweet and foul, the unmistakable scent of decay. Marla gagged, covering her mouth. "Jesus." Daniel aimed his light into the hole. Inside was a wooden box. Cracked, water-stained, and small. His breath caught as he brushed the dirt away from the lid. Carved into the wood, faint but visible, were initials, H. He stared at them, his throat tightening. Avery and Henry. His father. Marla knelt beside him. "You want to open it?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah." He pried the lid open. Inside, wrapped in a sheet of rotted cloth, lay bones, small, fragile, the remains of a child. A tiny shoe beside them, faded red ribbon tied around it. Marla whispered, "Oh my God!" Daniel's hand shook as he reached for something tucked beneath the cloth, a metal locket. Inside the locket was a photograph of the same girl he'd seen before, smiling in a sundress, her eyes bright and alive. On the other side of the locket was an inscription, "To Lily, my daughter. Love, H." Daniel's breath caught. His vision swam. He fell back onto the dirt, heart hammering in his chest. No, that can't be." Marla frowned. "What is it?" He looked at her, eyes wide, hollow. "The H doesn't stand for Henry Avery. It stands for Henry Harker. My father. That girl, she wasn't Avery's victim. She was his daughter." Marla's voice barely rose above a whisper. "Your sister?" Daniel nodded slowly, numb. "He never told me, never said a word." He tried to stand, but his legs felt weak. The memory of his father's drunken mutterings came rushing back. "I couldn't save her. She shouldn't have been there." Rex whined again, louder this time. The dog's head turned sharply toward the woods. His fur bristled, teeth baring. Daniel followed his gaze. A figure stood at the tree lean. Small, still, barefoot. The girl, Lily. Her skin was pale as moonlight, her eyes shining like wet glass. The red ribbon in her hair fluttered in the wind. She said nothing, just looked at him, as if she'd been waiting. Daniel took a step forward. "Lily!" Marla grabbed his arm. "Danny, stop. There's no one there." "I see her," he said, voice breaking. Marla looked again. The space between the trees was empty, "Danny," she whispered, "please." But he was already moving. The girl turned and vanished into the fog, and Daniel followed, flashlight beam trembling through the darkness. Rex barked and ran after him. "Danny!" Marla shouted, but he didn't hear her. He chased the flicker of the red ribbon through the woods, branches slashing his face. The air grew colder with every step until his breath came out in clouds. The ground turned to mud beneath his boots. "Lily," he called out, "please talk to me." Her voice came from ahead, clear this time. "You left me." Daniel froze. The beam of his flashlight caught her standing beside an old, half-collapsed barn. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "I didn't know," he whispered. "You promised to keep me safe." He shook his head. "That wasn't me. I was a kid. I didn't even know you existed." She tilted her head, but he knew. Daniel swallowed hard. "Dad?" Lily nodded. "He and the man in the hat. They said it was just a game. They locked me in the barn, so I'd stop crying about Mommy. Then the fire came." Her voice trembled on the last word, like a child trying not to cry. Daniel's knees buckled. "Oh, God! You heard me calling," she said softly. "But you didn't come." "I didn't hear you, Lily. I swear." She looked at him with eyes that no longer seemed human. "Now you do." The wind roared suddenly, slamming the barn door open. The smell of smoke filled the air, fresh, choking. Inside, the dark shimmered with orange light. Rex barked, snarling at the doorway. Daniel stepped closer, shielding his eyes from the glare. He could see faint outlines in the fire, shapes moving. Men, his father, Avery, standing side by side, watching the flames. And between them, a small figure, burning. Daniel screamed, "Stop it! Stop!" But when he blinked, the barn was dark again. Empty. Only the echo of Lily's voice lingered, whispering through the rafters. "You can't bury the truth." By the time Marla found him, he was kneeling in the dirt outside the barn, shaking. The flashlight lay shattered beside him. Rex pressed close, whining, refusing to leave his side. "Danny," Marla said gently, "what did you see?" He looked up, tears streaking through soot. "Everything." She glanced toward the open field. The hole beside the well gaped like a wound. "We need to report this." "The remains! Avery, all of it." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah, but not to Willow Creek PD. Not here. They'll bury it again." "Then where?" He looked at her, really looked. There was something different in her eyes. Not fear. Guilt. "You knew," he said softly. Marla didn't answer. "You knew about my father. About the fire." Her lips trembled. "I didn't know it was her. I thought they were covering for Avery alone. He promised no one else would get hurt." Daniel stepped closer. "He? You mean you work for him?" She nodded weakly. "I was just a rookie. I did what I was told." His voice hardened. "You left her there." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm sorry." Rex growled low, sensing the shift. Daniel took a step back, the betrayal burning through him like acid. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, Daniel said quietly, "Then you're coming with me? We finish this together." Marla wiped her face. "What do you mean?" He looked at the well, the box, the dark woods beyond. "We dig every inch of this land. We find proof. We show the world what they did to her." The next morning, Willow Creek woke to sirens. News trucks arrived by noon. Officers sealed off Greenridge Farm with yellow tape. 2 bodies recovered. One belonged to Sheriff Tom Avery. The other, confirmed by dental records, was Lily Harker. A story 30 years buried now stood in the light. Daniel gave his statement. Every word recorded. He didn't mention the girl's voice, or the fire that came and went, or how she stood in the woods. Some truths were too heavy for paper. When it was over, he walked back to the well one last time. The hole had been filled in, covered with fresh soil. He placed a red ribbon on top. Rex sat beside him, silent. Daniel whispered, "I'm sorry." The wind moved through the grass, soft and low. And for just a moment, he swore he heard her voice again. No pain this time, just peace. You kept your promise. He drove away from Willow Creek that afternoon, the road stretching into an endless horizon. Rex's head rested on his lap, eyes closed. The town faded behind them, swallowed by distance and rain. Maybe some ghosts didn't want vengeance. Maybe they just wanted someone to listen. And Daniel, he finally did. A quiet no at the end, spoken like a sigh between storms. Some stories don't end when the sirens fade. They linger, like echoes from an old well, reminding us that the past never stays buried forever. If the story found you, let it stay a while. Sometimes listening is enough.